October 3rd, and I'm just going to start with some very sad news. Longtime town meeting member Marylise passed away early Sunday morning, and there'll be a memorial service at a date that will be set a little later, so watch the paper, and if you're involved in town government, your emails for that. I served with Marylise on many town projects, including the Brookline Place project. She was on the zoning bylaw committee, the citizens, the Gateway East Citizens Committee, and she was very involved with the Brookline Neighborhood Alliance, and she was also an officer in the Green Rainbow Party statewide, and I believe she ran for a state auditor a number of years ago. So she's known around Brookline, she's known around the state, and I'll certainly miss her, and she was always one who would get up and keep me straight. Any other announcements? Okay, so we're starting a little later than usual. We just came from the high school where we saw a presentation of the possibilities of a school on the land owned by Pine Manor over on Heath Street at Woodland Road. And for anyone who's interested, the materials have been posted on the town website. And the materials include my opening remarks and some conceptual, early site drawings. And we also heard from the president of Pine Manor College, who gave some remarks. So I'll move to the miscellaneous calendar. I know we had a public hearing noticed at 7:30. I estimate we'll probably run about 15-20 minutes behind. So please forgive us. So just we have to take care of some business. We have the minutes of September 26th. Do anyone have any changes? And I'll move the minutes as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And the next item is the question of awarding a contract with Daigle Electric Construction Corporation for a rectangular rapid flash beacon on Chestnut Hill Avenue and Warren Street. Mr. Ditto.
Good evening. On September 21st, the DPW had opened bids for this project. We received two bids, and the low bidder was Daigle Electric Construction Corporation with $56,865. And the second bidder, Pine Ridge Technologies, Inc., was a distant second at $93,187. The engineer's estimate for this was $59,000, so we feel comfortable with Daigle's bid. In addition, Daigle Electric has had the town's traffic signal maintenance contract several times in the last few years, so we're familiar with him, and he's familiar with how we operate. These rapid flashing beacons are going to be put at three places. Two on Chestnut Hill Ave, one at the intersection of Hyslop, and the other at the intersection of Acres Ave. And then we're putting a third one on Warren Street at the intersection with Dudley Road. And if you want to get a picture of what this is going to be like, MassDOT installed one in Brookline on Route 9 on the inbound side by the mattress building there, the one that has Bank America, and really a recent building. So there's a crosswalk there that has this type of device that we'll be putting in. So if you want to take a ride and try it, it works pretty well.
Okay.
So if you execute this contract tonight, the notice to proceed will go out tomorrow, and I guess this shouldn't take any more than 2 to 3 weeks at the latest to complete.
Okay, any comments or questions? I'll move that we award and execute the contract with Daigle Electric Corporation in the amount of $56,865 for the rectangular rapid flash beacons on Chestnut Hill Avenue and Warren Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I skipped public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, I see none. So next item is, we have a bunch of temporary liquor licenses. There's a whole bunch of them, oh my goodness. So this is going to be a lot of reading, so bear with me. So I'll move that we grant 6 permits to serve alcoholic beverage on town property to Lars Anderson Auto Museum at 15 Newton Street as follows. Non-sales wine and beer only for a wedding reception to be held on Saturday, October 7th from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. For a wedding reception to be held on Saturday, October 7th from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. and for a wedding reception on Saturday, October 21 from 5 to 11. Non-sales all type for an anniversary fundraiser to be held on Wednesday, October 11th from 5:30 to 9:30. For a wedding reception to be held on Saturday, October 14th from 6 to 11, for a wedding reception to be held on Saturday, October 28th, from 4:30 to 11. I'll move also that we grant 3 temporary alcoholic beverage sales licenses to Pine Manor College at 400 Heath Street as follows: for wine and malt only, for a corporate reception to be held on Thursday, October 19th, from 6:30 to 8:30, for a bat mitzvah to be held on Saturday, October 21, from 6 to 11, for a corporate dinner event to be held on Wednesday, October 25th, from 6 to 11. I'll also move that we grant a permit to serve alcoholic beverage on town property, non-sales wine and malt, to the Lincoln School PTO for a parent mingle wine and cheese event to be held on Thursday, October 5th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Lincoln School, 19 Kennard Road. We never did that when I was PTO.
Keep moving.
Okay. I'll also move that we grant a permit to serve alcoholic beverage on town property to the Public Library of Brookline for a vinyl collection launch party to be held on Thursday, October 12th, from 7:30 to 10 at 361 Washington Street, which is the main branch of the Brookline Public Library. I'll also move, there's still more, that we grant a temporary all kinds alcoholic beverage sales license to Hellenic Association of Boston, doing business as Annunciation Greek Orthodox Cathedral of New England, for bar mitzvah to be held on Saturday, October 14th, from 7 to 11 at 162 Goddard Avenue. And I'll move that we grant 4 temporary wine and malt beverage alcohol sales license to Olive Connection for 4-session Italian wine class to be held at 1426 Beacon Street on the following dates from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Tuesday, October 17th, Tuesday, October 24th, Tuesday, October 31, and Tuesday, November 7th. And last but not least, I'll move that we grant 2 temporary wine and malt beverage alcohol sales license to the Olive Connection for 2-session wine class to be held at 1426 Beacon Street on the following dates from 6:30 to 9. And this is Thursday, October 19th, and Thursday, November 30th. Wow, that's a mouthful. All those in,
I would,
Selectman Franco.
I would just request that we attach a condition to one of these temporary licenses, the parent mingle wine and cheese. I understand that the crowd manager certificate has not been submitted to the Selectmen's office, so issuance of the license will be conditional upon receipt of that paperwork.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion as amended by Selectman Franco, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. A mouthful, but we got through it.
And they still might not have that mingle after all.
Right. I hope they do. Okay, so the next item is the question of authorizing the filling of 2 vacancies in the police department, a CIT administrative assistant and a CIT coordinator of clinical services. Chief O'Leary, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Glad to be here tonight to tell you a little bit about an opportunity that we have in the police department that I think will improve not only the work that we do, but also a lot of our neighboring departments. But before I begin, I just want to recognize 2 people in the department that really took on this challenge back in 2012, and they haven't stopped till today. One is with me tonight, Lieutenant Jennifer Pastor, and the second one is Sergeant Christopher Lynn. They volunteered to take a look at how we were handling the mentally ill, those suffering from mental illness. They actually came up with a plan that all I had to do was say yes to it, and one of the easiest decisions I had to make. But they had their all mapped out as to where they wanted to take the department, and they did just that. And I think what we're going to ask you to approve of tonight is just another step in making us that much of a better department, and it'll also allow us to make a positive impact on a lot of other departments around us and the members of their community. So going back to 2012, we've gone through training our entire department in mental health first aid. It's an 8-hour training session that's done by people from the NAMI group. They came in, they've done all of our personnel, all of our dispatches, and we accomplished that several years ago, but we continue to update as new people come in. But we took it to another level. We took a look at what was the state of the art in training for police across the country, and we settled in on a thing called critical incident training, CIT training. It's a 40-hour more intensive course that not only is part of a classroom where you have trainings put on, the 40 hours put on by a lot of different people, a lot of different professionals, but you also involve a lot of your community members. And in our case, we're very fortunate to have a lot of people that were concerned about mental health in Brookline. We have not only the Brookline Center, we have a lot of the social services for the senior citizens, our people that are challenged, and we also have a medical community that's just over our borders that we've done work with over the years that are more willing to help us get everything underway. So not what you're going to hear tonight is a plan that Sergeant Malin and Lieutenant Pastor have together with DMH, but beyond that, it goes beyond the Brookline Police Department. It goes on beyond police departments because it brings in a lot of community members. Along with that, just a gist of it, DMH knows there's going to be a lot of work on our part. We're willing to undertake it, but they authorized the hiring of 2 civilians that they will staff. We will staff, we will make the selection and who the people are. They will pay for their salary and benefits. We have to provide the space, and they'll work with us. We've worked with their staff before, so we know what they're looking for in the employees to get other departments up and running. One will be an administrative assistant, and the other one will be a coordinator of clinical services. And so those are 2 new positions in the police department, but like I said, we will be housing them, we'll be giving them space, but their benefits and pay will be through this grant if the board goes to accept it. So the amount of the grant is a prorated amount because they wanted us to, we never got the funding approved from the state until just recently, so we can't backdate it to July, so it's prorated. The total compensation that they were actually going to give us was $296,000, $264,000. That's prorated to $252,052 for what time is left in the fiscal year this year and next year. And that will allow us to put on a lot more training for our department. That up to this point, we are over half of our members are trained in the CIT program. We have trained, I think, 8 other towns in Norfolk County in 2 different training iterations. We have 2 more scheduled. The next one is scheduled for November of this year. All the costs to Brookline Police will be paid through out of this grant and an existing grant that we have going with DMH. I know that there's a lot more specifics about it and who we're partnering with, who we're going to help develop their own programs. And I'd like to ask Lieutenant Pastor to come up, and she can go over a little bit of it, and then available to answer some questions. So, Lieutenant?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for
Welcome.
taking the time to listen about this project. It's
Sure.
pretty exciting. So what we're actually asking is for the board to accept an amendment to the existing grant that we've been operating under. Last fiscal year, through an $80,000 grant provided by DMH, we were able to provide 2 40-hour trainings to our partners in Norfolk County, as well as the city of Newton. And what DMH has asked, there's an increased demand for training around the state. They've been putting a lot of pressure on the 4 existing TTACs that exist in the state. It's us, Cambridge, Somerville, Taunton, and the Behavioral Health Network out in Western Massachusetts. They've put some more pressure on us to host as many trainings as we can, to get as many officers trained across the state as we can. And after a little bit of negotiating, we agreed upon 6 as a doable number. So our plan is to host a training here in Brookline in November, as well as in May, to host a training at BU in March, and again in September. That will be some officers from BU, but mostly Boston police officers from their Community Services Division. And then we'll host a training in January at Norwood PD and a training in June at Braintree. So that we'll cover most of the county, trying to get a little bit more accessible to departments who don't have necessarily the support that we have from our chief, who's been amazing in supporting us in everything we've asked him for. And if I can answer any questions?
Sure. The number in our calendar is different than the number in the memo. So what number do you need us to vote? So the memo says the grant is for $296,264 for fiscal years 18 and 19, with this year's amount prorated to $218,000. But the number in our calendar is, oh, this is a different grant in our calendar, or is it?
It is a different grant.
Oh.
Are you giving us more money?
No, this one is less. This is for a state E911 grant program.
Is that the one we did last week?
No. I was hoping to do it tonight, too. Different item.
Oh.
Okay, well, let's see. So do you want the acceptance of the grant within that first, so we'll have to make sure we do a motion under that first setting.
Right.
I think we had that.
Okay, so, so you'll help me. So you'll help me with the motion.
Yes.
Any other questions of substance?
Oh. No, I just want to say that this is an incredible opportunity for Brookline and Brookline Police Department. It's an example of how we are both leaders as well as role models, not only in this region, but the state and probably nationally. You know, if more police departments had programs and trainings like this, many of the incidents involving police and civilians throughout the country, maybe not all, a huge number of them would be avoided, and there'd be a lot more cooperation and respect between police and communities in many cities. So I commend the department for taking the initiative to do this, and you know, I hope that we can somehow get the information out to the public, because even here in Brookline, many of our residents don't understand or appreciate what we've done to address many of the issues that they claim, you know, still exist here in town. So,
Thank you.
I'll just add to Selectman Green's comment that we have a few mental health facilities in town, and we're very proximate to the Longwood Medical area. And it is occasional that the police department do come in contact with some patients, and those interactions are a non-event in terms of the news cycle. We don't really hear about them. And I, for one, am convinced that it's because of trainings like this, that there's been an education of our officers and now of surrounding departments. And my compliments to you and to the chief and to the entire department for taking this on. I, for one, see the results and hope it's an initiative that continues to grow over time.
Sure.
Well, I would like to add my congratulations and thank you to you and to the chief and to those of who have been instrumental in organizing this. I just had one question. You mentioned that you were asking us to amend a grant that we have already, am I getting this correct?
Yes.
That we had already approved. And that was for 180,000?
Just 80,000.
80,000, okay. And so the additional amount is the 218,252? Or
it's-
296,264?
So the additional amount for this fiscal year would be the 218 minus the 80. The 80 was in place, that allowed us to do the 2 trainings and to
Okay,
provide funding for some of the assistance we received from
right.
NAMI.
So what I'll do, I'll offer a motion that just mirrors the language in the memo,
okay,
and that'll cover everything.
okay, right. And I see you've talked here about the 40-hour trainings for Norfolk County personnel, as well as trainings for officers from Boston Police and Boston University. So those are the 6 training sessions you're talking about, correct?
Correct, and the idea is to enable those departments to get themselves up and running and to possibly be future host sites for additional training.
Right. Terrific.
Out-of-the-box thinking like this makes me proud to be a Brookline Selectman, so thank you.
Okay. So I will offer an omnibus motion that we authorize the filling of the 2 vacancies within the police department for the CIT administrative assistant and the CIT coordinator of clinical services, and also to accept the grant offered the police, Brookline Police Department by the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, an award for $296,264 for fiscal years 18 and 19, with this year's amount prorated to an actual amount of $218,252. Got that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Good job. We have another grant, and this is for a grant from the state's E911 grant program in the amount of $135,634 for the funding of personnel costs and software and equipment updates for the Public Safety Dispatch Center. Chief.
This is a yearly opportunity that we get to file for this money. The money amounts are actually put in place by the state based on our 911 call volume and our population. So each year it fluctuates, but it's always right around $135,000, $140,000 for this part of the grant. So I'm asking the board if they vote to do this, there's some things, improvements we're making in the facility, and then the rest will be used to offset the cost of the dispatches.
Are cell phone coming directly to us yet?
I was going to tell you about that.
Okay, I beat you to it.
Okay. As you know, Mr. Kleckner and I signed a letter to say that we wanted to start the cell phone receipt at the police department, and I think we did it maybe 2 years ago now, at least. And through a bunch of changes, we've been in talks with the 911 people, and we had to kind of wait. Nantucket went first, Boston just went, and we're partially there. And the way I have to explain it to you is that the system is all based on where the towers are located. And right now, as of 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks passed from last Monday, we started taking our calls from 70% of the towers, 72% of the towers, something like that. Most, if not all of the calls that used to go to the state police are now being routed directly to us. We are tracking the amounts of calls that we're getting. We're not seeing a great spike in the amount of calls. Based on the history and the call volume that we studied with 911, we weren't anticipating a lot. The first 2 weeks are bearing that out, but we do have in place a study that we're doing to make sure that we're not bringing a lot of extra stuff on us. I think where we'll see a spike is if we see a bad accident. We'll get a lot of people that are going to call, and we're going to get that. We're hoping that around October 15th, that we're going to be able to get most of the towers from Boston directed towards us. Now, it depends on the city of Boston making a couple of adjustments and 911 making a couple of adjustments. So we'll hope that by the end of October, we'll be taking close to 95% or more of the cell phone calls that originate in Brookline directly to our center, which is a huge improvement. It will cut down on built-in delays of 4 or 5 minutes just going out to state police and relaying back to us. And I think we'll see a good change. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of increase into the workload of our dispatchers. But we'll monitor that, and if they are, we'll make adjustments.
Do you get GPS information when the call arrives?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay.
We'll get it, and it's not, we've been told it's not as good as it will be, but you can get a real close approximation of where the calls originated from.
Interesting.
So in line with what we're trying to do, we are the third community in the state to go, so which I think is great.
Selectman Heller.
So are there provisions for what happens at the borders? If somebody is standing in the line and calling about an accident they can see in Boston, does the call get routed somehow?
We could route the calls to Boston, and if they're standing in Boston and the call goes to Boston, they can route the call back into us. So yes, we can do that. And if it's a more serious thing, or if it's an accident with a lot of injury, we do have a 500-yard rule that.
I understand that we would help no matter
Yes.
what, but we will also want the other community involved, either Boston or Newton, to respond as well.
Yeah, and we'd turn it over to them after we did what we had to do.
Selectman Green.
So the benefit of this is quicker response time, or is there other benefits?
It'd be quicker response time, and it'd be less of a question and answer period between the dispatcher and the caller, because the state police don't have to answer the questions of the state police and then forward it to us and answer them all over again. So it's one of the reasons why we put the public safety dispatch center in, and in it we did police, fire, and ambulance, is to have it all get dispatched out of one location. It cuts down on confusion, possibly the wrong information, in time.
Okay. I'll move that we accept this grant from the state E911 grant program in the amount of $135,634 for the funding of personnel costs and software and equipment updates for the Public Safety Dispatch Center. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you. Thanks.
And we're now ready for the grants of locations, public hearings. And the first one is Comcast, who's looking for permission for a grant of location on Washington Street for a new vault starting 129 feet northwest of Cypress Street, going for about 36 feet to 400 Washington Street.
Good evening. Tim Coethel with Comcast of Boston. I'm a permit coordinator for the greater Boston area. I have Clint Thomas here that's actually taking over the PC for the Brookline area.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys know Kevin Kelly from years past.
Yes.
He's moved on to a different construction group. We're here respectfully asking for the grant of location to install a new manhole over existing conduit or existing plant in front of 400 Washington Street, approximately about 40 feet. We'll be adding one 4-inch Schedule 40 conduit in the roadway to service the CVS building.
And the impact on us?
For traffic-wise, or all the above?
All the above.
Be approximately 1 to 2 days of work. We can definitely plate the roadway if need be, depending on what we have for work hours and whatnot.
So
we can
you,
definitely work around
nothing at
school.
night, it's all,
Whatever the city seems to be the best.
not
Oh, it's
night.
hot, it's hot.
And actually, and we need to be sensitive of the rush hour. That's a very busy location
yeah.
over there. And it's a key location for a number of schools, Brookline High School. It's in between Brookline High School and the Pierce School. So it's, and there's a lot of construction activity going on right now on Cypress Street. So I guess, I know National Grid is in there, right? Tearing the road up. So I guess it's a good thing both of you guys are going to tear the road up at this approximately the same
Yeah, you can
time.
both blame each other.
Yeah. So you're looking at starting immediately?
Yeah, whatever's easiest for the town.
Okay, so you'll coordinate with Mr. Ditto and his staff. Do you anticipate any road closures or?
No, be just probably maintained with one lane with a police detail.
Okay. Any
I
questions?
assume that this is not going to be starting too early or go too late, so and there won't be weekend noisy backhoes and machines that make a lot of
There'll be-
irritating noise.
There'd be
when
one
people are sleeping.
machine and a triaxle or a small dump truck, but minimal disruption traffic.
Any other questions from the board? This is a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to speak about this grant of location? I see none.
Let me ask.
Yeah.
As I understand the location, it's near a number of apartment buildings. Okay, so the issue of nighttime work would be important, I assume that.
Well, there is no nighttime work.
Okay. Well,
Preferably like to do
Or
it during the
other,
day.
or other noise. would
It's a
be
day or
important.
two,
Yeah.
sometime between 9 and 3:30 in the afternoon. Okay, so I'll move that we grant this petition from Comcast for permission to construct and a location for such line conduits and manholes with necessary cables therein under the following public way: Washington Street, conduit running southeasterly for new Comcast vault, approximately 129 feet northeast of Cypress Street, a distance of about 36 feet to 400 Washington Street. That's the CVS over there. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is National Grid, and we have two petitions. The first one is Harvard Street, and these are for new 12 and 20-inch gas mains running southwesterly from Babcock, only about 28 feet. So this is so this is going towards Coolidge Corner, right? From Babcock.
Yes.
Ooh, this is a sensitive area. So tell us about it.
So my name is Barbara Kelleher. I am the permits representative for National Grid. And we are, I will read the extent of, the National Grid hereby respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain new 12 and 20-inch gas mains in Harvard Street, southwesterly from Babcock Street, a distance of about 28 feet. New 12-inch and 20-inch gas main northeasterly in Babcock
okay.
Street from Harvard Street, a distance of about 228 feet, and southeasterly, a distance of about 39 feet, to a new regulator station and 16 feet of new 6-inch gas service.
Okay, so this is
substantially shown
actually
in
my
the plan.
bad. I only read
I'm
the
sorry,
first
it's-
part. So this is also Babcock Street.
Yes.
From
And as a matter of
Harvard.
fact, majority of it is on Babcock Street.
Right. Well, I guess it's good since Babcock Street is all torn up anyway.
I know, thank goodness we didn't approve the repaving.
Right. So let's talk impacts here.
What are hours, what hours are you going to be working?
We will go with what your DPW tells us the hours are. If they will let us go in early in the morning, but it's up to them how early we can start in the morning.
Well, I would say that the area on Babcock Street is far more residential than the piece on Harvard.
But
So-
Harvard has a lot of traffic.
But Harvard has a lot of traffic, but I don't know that it has so much traffic at 7 a.m., it has a lot of traffic, and so you're going to have to really figure out a way with the Department of Public Works to deal with that. I mean, I live near there, and I practically never go on Harvard Street because it's so bad,
Yeah.
and I'm sure now it's going to be even worse. So I hope that you will.
So
have
how
a
long,
plan.
I'm sorry, how long do you see this work taking?
I have brought a construction manager with me.
Come on up, join the party.
Steve Megan is here with me.
Steve,
too.
Steve is the guy who knows all.
Yes.
I wouldn't go quite that far. Really can't put a timeline on it, on how long it's going to take, because I'm not sure what the infrastructure is on the road, in the road already. That's usually what dictates how long it takes us to get something done, is when you start digging, it's what you find in the ground. Roughly speaking, this is a steel job, 228 feet. We probably average about 15 feet of steel a day because of the infrastructure.
So I assume that you're trying to replace a cast iron main.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
You're trying to replace a cast iron main that has outlived its useful life.
Eventually, that's what the outcome will be, but we're also putting in a regulator station. And the reason for the regulator station is because the area is so saturated with gas, we need to improve the gas flow through the system.
Okay.
So we're looking at some night work.
Like Barbara said, whatever Mr. Ditto wants us to do, that's what we'll do. Harvard Street itself to do the tie-ins, I would think.
Well, Mr. Ditto, what do you want? What are you going to be asking of us?
There's a lot of moving parts to this point. I'm not too keen on working at night. I'd like to just start working in the daytime and see how that flies, and if we're having troubles, we'll come back to the board and request a waiver of the bylaw. But some of my concerns are, that is also the entrance to the devotional school project for trucks. So negotiating through that intersection of Babcock and Harvard could get tricky in the peak hours. I have no problem directing them to start work down where the regulator manhole's going to be, which is 200 feet down Babcock Street, and get our feet wet down there and then work our way back to Harvard Street. So I think I want to sit down with some reps from Grid and, confirm that they'll agree with that.
Are we going to run into similar issues that we ran into on Beacon Street?
As far as unknown utilities,
And like extended night work and...
the only time I can see that having have to be done is when we're at the intersection of Harvard and Babcock, because the pipe comes right down the middle of Babcock Street and through Harvard, so it's hitting everything. So I don't think you can work during the daytime there and also process traffic through that intersection. So when we get to that point, I think we're going to have to go on nights.
So that'll be on Harvard Street over there.
Yes.
And there's not much,
No, that's sort of opposite the arcade and
Right.
Right.
running into the arcade, basically, or.
so we don't have too many people sleeping right there. A little
Yeah.
down Babcock you do,
But noise is going to carry there.
yeah.
Going to bounce off.
And then Babcock doesn't have quite the traffic that, say, Beacon or even Harvard has to force night
I'm
work.
calculating, according to Steve's numbers, that this would be about 15 days. Is that, if it's 15 feet a day and it's 228 feet, then it's about 15?
Yeah, roughly about that, yeah. It depends on what we find in the ground.
Yeah, why don't you speak into the mic so our vast
sorry.
TV audience.
It should take somewhere between 15 and 20 days, depending on what we find in the
So
ground.
that's 3 to 4 weeks.
Correct. Yeah.
There's a fire station right on Babcock Street, maybe 2 blocks down from the intersection with Harvard. I'm wondering whether there's anything we can do to make it easier for the fire department to maneuver their trucks when construction is going
My
on.
supervisor will go down and talk to them about it.
Okay.
And we'll let them know we're there. We'll do whatever they need us to do to let them get through.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's any members of the public, come on up. Introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, my name's Julia Herskowitz. I'm a condo owner at 3 Bradford Terrace, which is a tiny little cul-de-sac off of Babcock Street. We have the devotion school right at one end of the building and Babcock Street at the other end of the building. As you know, the devotion school has been under reconstruction for a year. They plan to have it under reconstruction for another year. It's a constant source of noise. The trucks backing up and going back and forward. The constant beep, beep, beep starts at 7 o'clock in the morning and sometimes doesn't end until they leave at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in addition to the hammering and the drilling and everything else. In addition to this, the gas company has torn up Babcock Street at least half a dozen times since I've been there, and I've only been there for 11 years. We are inundated with noise at that corner. And I have a desperate plea that this be postponed until after the devotion school construction. A desperate plea. I know that you don't have total control over where the gas company digs, but the noise is really getting intolerable.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask another question?
Sure.
How much is this project tied to gas leaks and other safety issues in the neighborhood?
This particular project is mainly geared toward the expansion of the gas supply in the area. As everybody knows, Boston is booming. The whole area is booming with business, with buildings and stuff like that. So the infrastructure has to be upgraded to keep up with the changes that's going on. The side effect of this particular work will be to get the cast iron main out of the ground, get it abandoned, and stop it from leaking. So yeah, you'll see a difference in the gas leaks in the area.
And that's a safety issue.
That's a safety issue, yeah. No gas leak, there's no problems.
And have you torn this particular segment up before?
I'm at a disadvantage. I just moved up here from a different area. I know back in the early 90s when I worked here, we were out there working on joints, but I couldn't tell you anything recently.
There's been a lot of work on Babcock
I
Street.
know, but
yeah.
I think it's, yeah, I live off of Babcock Street, so I'm just trying to picture how far down it is. But anyway, the safety issue is what concerns me the most, because those leaks, put noxious methane into the air, and that affects the health of all of us. And in addition to the fact that we're actually paying for those leaks right now, we're trying to get state law to change that, but we haven't been successful so far. And, you know, I worry that as that cast iron gets older and older and leaks more and more, it leaks could be bigger and bigger and be subject to explosion. Now, you are going to replace that cast iron main with these other pipes while you're doing this work to get to a new regulator station. Is that correct?
It's not going to happen while we're doing it. It won't happen until after we gas up the new pipe, get it all tied in onto Harvard Street, and get the regulator station up and running. The last step will be to abandon that section of cast iron main. So that would be the last part of the project.
Okay, but that's part of the 28 days, and I mean the 228 feet and the 15 to the 3 to 4 weeks.
Correct.
That you're talking
That 228 feet will be taken care of.
Sure.
To give you an idea how far this goes, it goes about to a midpoint of the town parking lot. So if you're
Okay,
going down
yeah,
that
so the
way-
people.
So it doesn't
the pe-
reach John Street even?
No.
No, but the people on Bradford Terrace are definitely affected, because that's on the other side of the street. Is that
I
not?
don't know why that old gas main wasn't replaced all the other times they tore up the street.
I can't answer that either. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they were there before. I can't answer that question.
It may be that they were trying to fix the leak and there were futile efforts. But at any rate, we're in this position now where, you know,
Oh, I see.
we need to get it.
Yeah, so it does reach Bradford Terrace.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
sure it does, and I'm sure.
So I have a question for the public commenter. I guess I'm having trouble understanding if, with all of this noise going on, why you'd want more noise after the devotion project wraps. Why is that a better outcome for you from your point of view? If you can come up to the mic.
I would prefer no noise at all.
Well,
But-
that's probably not an option.
You know, it's just piling one thing on top of another. I mean, it can be really deafening at times. And this just makes it more so. When you have, those backup alarms on the trucks are the worst. And if there are more going, in addition to the ones coming in and out of devotion school, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So if it's a couple of weeks after devotion is finished, fine. But altogether, it's just
There's,
becoming intolerable.
Yeah, there's
We're
another-
talking about moving because of the noise.
yeah. There's another consideration. We're looking at repaving Babcock Street in the next summer-ish. So we want to get this work done before that.
Isn't that going to wait until after devotion is finished? I mean, you've got all
Not
these trucks
necessarily.
going in and out that'll wreck your paving.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to happen this year, so this would have
And
torn that up.
Excuse me, the part of Babcock Street that's near Harvard looks like it's been repaved already. It's not broken up, it's not the old cement roadway that you have further down.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other comment? So you're not seeking a noise bylaw waiver in this hearing. So if there's going to be night work, you're going to have to come back. And then are you looking, when are you looking to start if we grant this?
Right now, we don't have it on the schedule. It'll be sometime this fall. It's not on the schedule yet because we haven't got your approval to go ahead and do it.
So you're going to want to start before the winter hits, I
Ideally,
presume?
yes.
Do you work through the winter? Well, you did on Cypress Street.
Yeah, we do work through the winter. My personal preference is not to work through the winter, but if we have to, we will.
No, at least residents' windows are closed. So that might help deaden the noise a wee bit, not a huge amount.
I see no choice other than to grant this, unfortunately. This grant, as I said, is not for night work. You're going to have to come back and expect to kind of give us some more definitive information about when you're going to be working at night. So if you come back for night work, that's the kind of stuff that we'd be asking. Yes, ma'am?
Are they also, are you restricted?
Come on up to the mic.
I'd like to know if they're restricted to not starting before 7 o'clock in the morning
Yes, I believe so. Is that true, Mr. Ditto?
Yes.
Yes.
and ending by?
7 at night.
7 at night.
Now, their application says they're ending at 4 p.m. So, is that your expectation? You're done by 4 p.m.?
On a normal day, yeah, we would stop by 4 p.m.
Okay.
The 7 p.m. is probably covered in case we get stuck out there for some reason. You find something that you have to go around.
Okay. So I'm going to move that we grant the petition of National Grid for permission to construct location of gas mains and other structures under the following public ways. Harvard Street, a new 12 and 20-inch gas main running southwesterly from Babcock Street, a distance of 28 feet. And Babcock Street, a new 12 and 20-inch gas main running northeasterly from Harvard, a distance of 228 feet, and southeasterly, a distance of 39 feet to a new regulator station, and 16 feet of new 6-inch gas service. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye, and I would ask that you please fix everything that is possibly wrong underneath that part of the street and be done with it. Thank you.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Next up is NSTAR, doing business as Eversource Energy for permission to construct on Beacon Street. And this is 248 feet northeast of St. Paul, a distance of 65 feet to a new manhole. On Pleasant Street, and this is going northwesterly from Thatcher, a distance of 25 feet. And on Thatcher, and this is a distance of 533 feet with one new manhole to an existing manhole at the intersection of St. Paul. So what's going on here?
Good evening, I'm Sheila Gillis. I'm here on behalf of NSTAR Electric, doing business as Eversource Energy. We request a grant of location to install approximately 65 feet of conduit and one new manhole in Beacon Street. This work is going to upgrade the 4 kV existing system that we have, and also a new manhole that will allow us remote control monitoring access.
That sounds very modern. So you're looking at 4 weeks, approximately 4 weeks of work?
I was told roughly about 2 weeks,
okay.
weather pending.
Okay. And you're looking at daytime work,
Yes,
and you're looking to go from 9 to 5 roughly. No nighttime work?
no,
No weekend work?
no.
Okay. Yep. Go for it.
I'm curious as to the level and frequency of coordination between National Grid and Eversource, and whether or NSTAR is, now you're doing business as Eversource, so it's kind of, but I'm just, we've had a lot of National Grid work out on Beacon Street, and it's been very disruptive, and the residents near there have been disturbed, mightily. And so I'm wondering, in the normal course of business, do you communicate about when you're going to do these projects and get everybody who's interested in what's under the street out there to do your digging and your work while it's opened already?
I honestly don't think they coordinate with each other.
That's what I was afraid of.
I guess that we can encourage Mr. Ditto to help us with that.
So, about in January, when we have a pretty good idea of what the town's road reconstruction program is going to be, we have a meeting with all utilities to let them know that these are going to be the streets we're working in. If you have any issues, please get in and get out as soon as possible. So we usually have at least one, and more than often not, we have 2 utility meetings before the construction season. So that's the extent of coordination that the town has.
But that's on our projects.
That's on our projects, right.
What about coordination between themselves on their projects or among the 3 of us on their projects?
Yeah, I don't know of any, to be honest with you.
Because I think that in truth is what does frustrate many people, because, it's hard to differentiate who's out there, and don't remember from time to time whether it was, National Grid or NSTAR or a cable company. And it just seems so repetitive and so frequent that it gets very, very it's disruptive, and it gets annoying. Is there any way that we can fix this problem?
Well, I know that Grid does a 5-year forecast on the streets they think they'll be working on. And maybe that's a starting point, if I can get that list and circulate it to all the other utilities. If we can get something going.
Does NSTAR have such a list? A 5-year look at projects? Or are you aware of that?
I can't say if it's a 5-year, but I know they have projects that they try to get in within a certain period of time. But I can't say if it's a 5-year one.
So maybe we could ask Mr. Ditto at least to look a year ahead at NSTAR's list and National Grid's list and kind of, get them talking to each other so that these things are not so disruptive, not only to the residents and people who are living in the area, but also to the traffic and for our police department and our first responders, et cetera. I mean, it is, burdensome. And I understand the work has to be done, and there are not only upgrades for, modernization, but also lots of safety issues. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do the work, but I just would urge us to do a better job getting this coordination so that we don't have a particular neighborhood besieged, month after month with a different utility. I made my spiel.
Okay.
So I'm starting my 4th year on the board, and I confess that I'm still confused as to what's going on sometimes with these grants of vocation. So can you enlighten me as to what HKV distribution service is? Is that a special type of electrical service? Is it regular service? What are we talking about here?
I think it's high voltage.
Okay. So is this is this regular work that's being done, or is it a request of a large customer in the area? Why undertake this project now?
This is Eversource. What it is they want to upgrade the existing system that's out there. And they have now this project is with these new types of manholes. They can have remote access to them. It can detect a fault in the system. They're able to do switching from the office instead of, being out in the street and stuff like that.
So has there been a problem with...
Basically an upgrade.
So there's been a problem with dependability of the existing service, or it's just the new technology being rolled out?
I think it's new technology because they're doing it in different areas just as well, not just Brookline only.
This is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak on this, now is your time. I see none. I will therefore move that we grant the petition of NStar Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy for permission to construct and a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with necessary cables therein under the following public ways: Beacon Street, conduit northwesterly from existing manhole 3261, approximately 248 feet, northeast of St. Paul Street, a distance of 65 feet to a new manhole, which will be 30,417, the new number. Pleasant Street, a conduit northwesterly from Thatcher, a distance of approximately 25 feet to an existing manhole, 9592, and Thatcher, a conduit southwesterly from Pleasant, a distance of 533 feet with one new manhole to an existing manhole at the intersection of St. Paul. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Selectman Hampton?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
And we have, I think we're done.
Yeah.
Or are we?
Oh,
Yeah. We took them all.
oh, okay. Thank you. Good night.
Okay. So we have a resolution celebrating and recognizing the 300th anniversary of First Parish of Brookline, and it's amazing that they've been around for 300 years. It's almost as long as Brookline. And it's also the building is the home of the first town hall up at the top of Walnut Street.
Is it their building or is it building adjacent to it?
It's their building. It's part of the church complex, but at one point it was town hall, and that was the site of the first town green. That kind of triangle, and there's a plaque there.
Which former president was married at First Parish? It's the trivia question of the night. No takers?
No takers.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Seriously?
No way. I thought
Wow.
all of his connections were in New York.
So I will move that we.
Can I
Yeah.
just say, the way this is written, it's not clear, at least to me, that the town hall is connected to the building. And I had suggested taking out 3 of the recitals as not being relevant. But if it's connected to the building, I think we should probably make that clear. So it was part of the same building, or?
Well, it says here it was erected next to the church,
Yeah.
and it's now connected to the church. There's a corridor, and it's all part of. It's kind of an integrated structure. It looks a little different than the rest of it, but it's all together and integrated, and it's It's where they have events in the old town hall.
So it should say was erected and connected next to, erected next to and connected to the church. I mean, I read this and it seemed like the town hall piece was irrelevant to the church.
Well, it's a part of the church now,
The old town hall piece is now a part of the church. I think that's.
right?
that's the
And I suspect the connection was made later,
Yeah, okay.
though I don't know.
Well, that's not, I think that's just a badly written couple of recitals. But the more important issue is in the seventh recital.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I think it's inappropriate for a governmental body to use language like, who have nobly served their God. Okay. We've taken it, okay.
Right,
good.
yeah.
And my reason for that is that government should not be making judgments one way or the other with respect to the validity or the nobility of religious institutions.
Okay. So I will move that we accept the resolution as amended by Selectman Green to recognize the 300th anniversary of the first parish of Brookline, where Teddy Roosevelt was married. That shouldn't go in the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
Selectman, thank you. Selectman Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, now we're ready for warrant articles. And first one is Article 2, and we don't have any collective bargaining agreements at the moment?
That is correct. So I would suggest we either take a vote of no action or defer it.
Why don't we vote it, and if we need to take it up, we'll just reconsider.
Sounds right.
So I'll move a no action recommendation on Article 2 because there are no collective bargaining agreements before us. That seems to be a good reason. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
Selectman Hamilton.
What happens if I say nay?
You can say whatever you want.
I'm going to say nay.
Good. And the
Public
chair.
record,
I know.
your permanent file.
Seriously?
Yeah?
What? It is 8.
And there are people
40.
watching this on TV.
I voted no. Sometimes I just feel like saying no.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. So this will go to town meeting as a 4-to-1 vote in the combined reports.
Okay.
Would you care to reconsider your vote?
No.
You
Okay.
have to explain.
Then you'll have to, someone's going to ask from the floor.
Oh,
what-
I know. I can't wait.
Okay. Article 17. Mr. Murphy, welcome back. You tell me.
I got a job working, pay the bills and all that. So surviving the game is today's motto.
So tell us what you're up to with this.
Well, I got a short statement. And just first off, good evening. Thank you for hearing me tonight. But I'm asking you to hold your vote in consideration of this article tonight for a few reasons. First, the tree committee, Nancy's tree committee, is meeting tomorrow morning, and I want to see what comes out of that meeting. We haven't had the latest as far as a proposal that they plan, or a letter they plan to give to town meeting for this fall. Plus, also, I plan on responding to the issues raised by the advisory committee, in which resulting in that I'm planning to amend, file a motion to amend to the article. And for that consideration, I'm asking you to hold this for a future date.
Oh, okay.
Just for a little bit more time and consideration.
Okay, that sounds
Prudent.
Thanks.
I do expect that at the meeting tomorrow, we will approve the very excellent draft report that Tom Brady has presented to us about our work in the last year and the path forward. So that's probably what we will be considering, and the discussion may expand to your article, but I don't know that that will happen.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
Ooh, I know a lot of people care about tree protection in town, so this is very timely.
Okay. We noticed a public hearing, so I'll open it up for public comment. I hear none, so I think we'll table this and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you in a moment.
Okay. Is Mr. Gordon around?
I just sent him a text message, and I expect he's going to come through the door shortly.
So why don't we...
He made an appearance like 5
Yeah, I
minutes
did.
ago.
Yeah, I saw him a little earlier. Why don't we go to the Override Study Committee?
Okie dokie.
So how are we going to do this, Mr.
So,
Kleckner?
Mr. Chairman, as the practice goes, I'll read the roll of candidates and seek a voice vote of the board. So, as you know, we have approved the charge for the Override Study Committee and interviewed several candidates over the last few weeks. And I'm going to list them in the order that they were interviewed, and I would ask the board then to take the voice vote, and I will record it best I can. So I'm just going to go right down the list that I believe you have that is in chronological order, beginning of interviews. So here it goes. Megan Levine.
Aye.
Isaac Silverberg. Jeff Rudolph.
Aye.
Paul Harris. Matthew Stewart. Harold Peterson.
Aye.
Joseph LaPuma.
Aye.
Charles Terrell.
Aye.
Ariel Sofer. Windsor DePietro. Betsy DeWitt.
Aye.
And Robert Miller. Okay, so my records indicate that the following individuals were appointed to the committee: Megan Levine, Jeff Rudolph, Harold Peterson, Joseph LaPuma, Charles Terrell, and Betsy DeWitt.
So I'll just state there are additional members who are kind of on as ex officio appointed by their boards from the Selectmen. It's Selectmen's Franco and Hamilton. I believe the school committee is Julie Schreiner Oldham.
Correct.
And the advisory committee has Cliff Brown.
Correct.
And in looking at the list of people, I think it's a diverse group in that it covers geographic diversity, gender diversity, there's some racial diversity, there's political diversity. I think there's a difference in outlook where the three kind of budget boards of the town are represented: the Selectmen, the Advisory Committee, and the School Committee. So I'm hoping that we've kind of covered all our bases as best we could with a, I think we're up to 10 people on the committee, right?
Yeah. So it's a slightly bigger committee than we had originally conceived of, but I think in the name of balance, it was important to expand the committee slightly.
Right. And we also have a good a broad set of skills, which is really necessary for a committee such as this, because I think one of the jobs of this committee is to kind of take a good non-political look at town operations and town needs and evaluate the asks of various departments. And we're looking at this committee to give us a a recommendation that I think the town will accept as credible, and it's important that that this committee's work be credible and above reproach. So, and that's been the model that we've been following with leading up to overrides for the last over 20 years, and it's served us well, and we're continuing that model. So.
It was not an easy decision either. I was relieved personally. You know, I tried my best to do a lot of recruiting for this effort, and to see the level of talent that expressed interest was, it made me feel like I had done enough to try to get people to apply.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Gordon's on his way out.
Oh, and there he is. Okay, just in time. As we were tap dancing and running out of taps.
We wore him out.
So, Article 16, Mr. Gordon.
Wait, aren't we going to vote?
We voted,
We voted.
Is there anything else we need to do?
unless you want to say
No,
something.
that's all right.
We just appointed an override study committee.
We can appoint you as well, Mr. Green, if you'd like.
No.
You can
Or
join the
Mr.
party.
Gordon.
I'm back, and thank you, but no thank you. So as I speak, Marty Rosenthal is down on the first floor in the advisory committee, working on warrant Article 22, so I'll speak slowly, and you can ask me lots of questions. So, as you know, I'm Neil Gordon, town meeting member of Precinct 1, member of the advisory committee, and co-chair of Brookline PACS. The World Wide Web was invented in 1989, 28 years ago. The first web browser was released to the public in 1991. Amazon.com was founded by Jeff Bezos in 1994, and eBay was founded a year later. 16 years after the start of the internet as we know it, that's now 10 years ago, with the gentle urging of Brookline PACS, town meeting took this bold and visionary action, amending the town's bylaws to include this, and I paraphrase just a little bit so that it reads in English. And I quote, "Each meeting notice required by the open meeting law shall, in addition, be posted in electronic format as soon as is practical on the town website calendar." The bylaw continues, "To the extent possible, each posting shall include," ready for this, now this is good, "each posting shall include an agenda." That's to the extent possible. So 10 years ago, town meeting voted favorable action on what we now take totally and completely for granted, the posting of meeting notices, agendas, and records on the town website. So with that as an introduction, welcome to the fall of 2017, warrant Article 16, and once again, the gentle urging of PACS at the podium. In promoting warrant Article 16, we propose that we further enhance accessibility and further encourage citizen participation in town government. Article 16 proposes including, within electronic meeting notices, the very same documents that are distributed to members of our boards, committees, and commissions, documents that are relevant to the meeting. So let me clear some misconceptions. First of all, favorable action on Article 16 will not inundate the staff. The infrastructure for the required postings is embedded within the town's notice posting software. Agendas are currently posted by attaching a PDF, as would other documents being posted by attaching already existing files in the same manner. Only documents that are available in electronic form need be posted, so there's no requirement to scan hard copies. Second, neither the current bylaw nor the proposed amendment provides a penalty for noncompliance. We've received some comments on that side. There's no modification in the open meeting law posting requirements. Meetings remain legal despite no compliance with the bylaw, as they remain legal now under the electronic notice requirement. The penalty for noncompliance, if any, is a political peer pressure sort of penalty. The full advisory committee met and discussed Article 16 several weeks ago. There was apparent agreement in principle, but to further ponder what I describe as devilish details, Article 16 was referred back to the subcommittee. So I think, as you know, Michael Sandman, as subcommittee chair, has asked for input from town bodies. We've received some, and from department heads. Some boards and commissions are meeting to take this up. We expect some additional feedback. So some of that input we received. We've received some nice constructive comments from Melissa Goff. They've been received, they're being considered. Michael Salmon and I are having discussions in advance of the subcommittee meeting. On the subcommittee list for further discussion, and this list may grow, is the level of discretion in posting documents, timing of posting, sensitivity of personal contact information, and the like. Those have all been raised as questions, if not issues and concerns. So, as I said, mostly devilish details. I suspect in the end that we will be able to agree on language that will appropriate call for providing the public with the information they need to fully participate in town government. It's perhaps premature, I suspect I'll get unanimous agreement on this, to ask for a recommendation on favorable action on warrant Article 16. But I would be encouraged by a favorable, positive response in principle pending further review. Thank you.
Where does it say that only documents that are electronic? So, one of the comments we got from the planning staff is, they get these big architectural renderings that, converting to electronic format can be difficult sometimes. So,
the intent, notwithstanding the language that may be obscure or may be perfectly clear in the warrant article as it was drafted and printed in the warrant, it is my intent and the intent of everybody who's considering this that only documents that are available in electronic form and have been distributed in electronic form to members of the various bodies be included within the bylaw requirement. So, for example, and it's somewhat a universal example, if a body is meeting and posting notice of their meeting, and they are also distributing documents, whatever they may happen to be, to their members electronically, those same documents should be attached to the notice of the meeting. That's the essence of the bylaw amendment. If it can be sent to me, it can be posted to the notice of the meeting in exactly the same way as an attachment to the notice of the meeting.
But that's not what the article says. I mean, it just says.
Right, and yes.
So, so the intent behind the written document is kind of not relevant, is it?
So I guess.
So look, just to respond, Selectman Green, to the extent that the word electronically needs to be included in there, I attribute that to a drafting error. It was never my intent in drafting this bylaw that everything that's distributed to a member of a body also be provided as part of the meeting notice. It's only what's available in electronic form and distributed in electronic form to the members of the body.
Have you discussed with the moderator the need to amend this language? And he agreed?
We don't have final language yet through the subcommittee. So we'll try and work within the language in terms of scope to modify it where it should have said electronically and include electronically. I suspect will be within the scope. We're sensitive to scope. We're working on issues.
Should we wait then to see what comes out of?
Absolutely.
Right. So have you seen the planning staff's comments? You should.
I have.
Okay, so I hope you'll I think if what you said is accurate and is reflected in the final product, it should address many of the comments planning staff has, because it seems to me it relates mainly to conversion of paper. And
There's no intention that there be conversion of paper. If it doesn't exist, if it's distributed by mail, we, and speaking Michael Salmon and I, we recognize that that is a burden to scan, and that is outside the, forget about the scope of the warrant article. It's outside the scope of what we're trying to accomplish. It comes down to what I said. If a meeting is scheduled and documents are distributed electronically, emailed to members of the body, those same documents ought to be made available to the public. And I had a conversation with the IT director, Kevin Stokes, about this. It is within the existing infrastructure. You simply attach that same document to the meeting notice.
So how much, just out of curiosity, how much staff time is that? If somebody's going to post a notice of the meeting, how much time is additional
So
time would that
the
person have to spend attaching the stuff?
So in the ordinary course, as I think many of you know, the advisory committee receives lots of reports, lots of documents. My test, the documents get attached to emails, they get amended and attached to emails. The relevant documents to a particular noticed meeting, it's the same documents, it's drag and drop and attach it to the notice. I don't think it's a meaningful, significant burden of finding additional documents, converting them, or doing any of those things. In the current culture, right, required or otherwise, members of the body, the board, commission, or committee would receive copies of reports in advance. Petitioners would receive copies of reports in advance by email. Interested parties as well. We, I suppose, see the notice of the meeting as an interested party. And so it's just one more place to put that attachment or a link. It's perfectly, I think, I don't want to say within the language of the bylaw as drafted, but certainly within the intent, and Michael, Sam, and I are working on the language before it goes back to the subcommittee. If we have a significant packet, as the one that you receive often, right? That packet, right? That packet is available on the Selectmen page on the town website. A link in the meeting notice that says the packet for this week's meeting can be found, and it's found in the same place every week. That's perfectly sufficient.
We have dedicated staff.
No, but I'm saying if you already do that, it's already available at whatever date it's available, right? A link in the meeting notice doesn't require all those documents to be separately attached to the meeting notice. It says the documents relating to this meeting can be found at, and they're always found presumably in the same place.
Would our packet be relevant to any other meeting?
Well, it might be relevant
to this meeting.
Well, it's relevant.
It's relevant to your meeting.
It would, I mean, that's already posted.
So
who would put the link to our packet?
The person posting the notice of the meeting would post the link to the packet in the
Okay, so you're
notice
just
of
referring
meeting.
to the board's meeting notice now.
Right, in that case. In the case of an advisory subcommittee, I'll keep my comments to meetings, committees that I've been on, worked with. We have a subcommittee meeting or an advisory committee meeting. The documents relating to that meeting will be provided by email. Those several usual documents, sometimes 5, 6, would just be attached as well to the notice of the meeting.
I think there's some details to be worked out, and you hear some of that conversation here. You've gotten it in written form through various comments from boards and commissions and department heads. I am supportive of the idea here, and I want to pick on one thing that's particularly compelling for me. All of us chair boards and commissions and special committees based on warrant articles, and frequently, in my experience, we have public hearings as part of those committees on a particular warrant article or recommendation that we're hearing. And frequently, about half of those public hearings or public comment periods are spent educating people about what's actually being talked about, what the history is. And I think to the extent that we can disseminate some of that information in advance of the meeting, it leads to better comments, faster, more on point meetings, and ultimately a better result. So that's even on top of the idea that I think it's only fair that we share information that members of boards and commissions have access to with members of the public on whose behalf we're doing this work. So details to be worked out. I think this is going in the right direction, and I look forward to some more finalized language.
Let me say it also. I think there would be some push in town to require the scanning of huge maps. But people should be aware that the minutes of the meeting still have to have at least a list of the documents, including those big maps that may be used in a meeting. And people who want to look at the map may have to go down to town hall to look at them or whatever. But, you know, so people, and we're not, the large bulky materials are still going to be made known to the public, and they can deal with them that way.
Okay. It's a public hearing.
Bueller.
Any members of the public who wish to speak, now's your time. I'll call your attention to Melissa Goff's comments, which you referenced already, because she raises some issues that are near and dear to my heart.
Yes, and I'm happy to respond to those that I remember offhand. She raised a very good point about members of the public receiving documents at the same time as the members of the body. Now, we're not talking about before and after the meeting. We're only talking about, from Melissa's point of view, a head start, which I think is a fair comment in that a document goes out, it gets posted electronically, you're on the Board of Selectmen. If you get an email, fine, you can read the document. But if you get a phone call, you're sort of put on the spot. I can understand why that's not fair, and that's something that Mike Sandman and I will discuss. Otherwise, we're talking about, as I recall Melissa's comments, logistics, burden, scanning. None of those things are intended.
So perhaps it could be done as we do it, which is to post the meeting materials day of, so that we get the information and have a chance to read it and understand it, and before we're questioned about it. And
Right, I'm sensitive to the issue.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Do you want to speak to Article 22?
I'm going to yield my time to Mr. Rosenthal on Article 22. I can.
There he is.
There
Any time, I don't know what his status is down on the first floor right now, but I can run down and find out.
Has there been any attempt by advisory to do some wordsmithing on this one?
There's been a little bit of wordsmithing in the whereas clauses, and there has been some further wordsmithing in the resolved clauses. The advisory subcommittee determined that it would not take a position on the whereas clauses, but the subcommittee approve of the resolved portion. And that's currently a topic that's hot on the first floor right now.
This is a resolution, right?
It's a resolution.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we talk about this next week. One, since hopefully this thing has been cleaned up a bit. And two, we'll have the petitioner here to tell us about it after it's been cleaned up a bit. I think it'll be more productive.
Perhaps we want to wait until the AC subcommittee and the petitioner have sort of worked out some details at any rate. So otherwise, we have to consider it again and again. So
Yeah. Okay.
perhaps we should just say we'd wait until, not just necessarily next week, but wait until we have that.
Yeah, and I guess I'd like to add that, the point of this article is to be persuasive, not just to people in our bubble, but to a broader audience throughout the state, throughout the nation. And I think, the tone of this is way too political to be persuasive. Right? The balance of, politics versus persuasiveness.
I'm sure my co-petitioner would be happy to have that conversation.
I'm just throwing that out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you.
And I think that concludes our business for tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, we got out before the advisory?
We started before that.
Yeah.
That happens occasionally.
I always forget that.